So this is going to be an exciting night. A warm welcome to everyone this evening, students, parents, and families. Warm welcome to our College Admissions Roundtable. We are delighted to see so many members here from our College Board community, waiting to go college bound. It's very exciting. And whether you're here in person or you're watching virtually through our live streaming, this program is going to last about an hour, and it will be posted probably tomorrow as a recording as well. So if anyone wants to revisit it, you'll be able to do that again. And we're having an exciting night tonight because you're starting to navigate that exciting journey of college admissions, right? So before we begin, I want to just take an opportunity. I'd like to thank our superintendent, Christine Tona, the Board of Education, our principal of the high school here, Dr. Lawrence, for giving us the opportunity to meet tonight so we can support all of our students and our families. Additionally, I would like to thank our counseling department, who are here to support you in any way that you need as you follow this journey. The college admissions process, I remember it well. It can be thrilling and it can be daunting, but it's a journey that often marks significant milestones, and it raises a lot of questions along the way. So whether you're a senior, right, who's already starting in your applications, or you're a junior who is exploring your options, or maybe you're a 9th or 10th grader who's looking to get a head start, this is a good night for you, and we're here to provide guidance and support along the way. So this evening promises to be both informative as well as insightful as we delve into all the different intricacies of the college admissions process. I'm April Umich. I'm the administrator for school counseling here at the district, and I'm going to moderate this evening for you. But really, this evening is going to be about honoring our esteemed panel tonight of experts in college admissions. So let me introduce them. To my left, I have Christina Labella from Manhattanville College, followed by Mr. Phil Howard from University of New Haven, and last but not least, Ms. Nicole Salenbini from Pace University. So we're excited to have them here tonight to help us shed light on various aspects of college admissions. And we're going to discuss a lot of topics, ranging from selecting the right college, crafting a standout application, financial considerations, and what life is really like on college campus. So remember, the process is not just about getting into a prestigious institution. It's finding the right fit for you. So your journey should be guided by the passions and your goals and your values along the way. So as we embark on tonight's evening, let's keep an open mind. Remember all those questions as we go. Hopefully we'll answer them along the way, and let's engage in meaningful conversations. So we're going to begin the evening by letting our admissions representatives tell us a little bit about themselves and the role that they have in admissions along with their school. And then we're going to pose some questions to the panel for discussion. And then lastly, we're going to open up the forum for questions that you may have directly to the panel. So without further ado, I'd like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Christina, do you want to start?
Good morning. Good evening. My name is Christina Labella. I am the Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Manhattanville College. I've been there for about 3 years. Prior to that, I've worked at a number of other institutions, large, small, Division I, Division II, and Division III schools. So excited to be back. This is my 2nd year back to do this panel, and last year we had a great panel, but we had about 2 families because there was all sorts of rain and flooding, so I'm glad to see more here in the auditorium with us, and excited to welcome those that are watching from home and watching later on at their leisure.
Good evening. My name is Phil Howard. Senior Associate Director of Undergraduate Admissions at the University of New Haven. And I've been there 5 years. In terms of my responsibilities, I have a territory that I recruit for in Westchester, Rockland, Dutchess, Putnam, and Orange counties in New York. I'm also the athletics liaison and one of the liaisons for the Henry C. Lee College of Criminal Justice and Forensic Sciences. And I've been in admissions for 5 years. Prior to that, I worked in corporate for a number of years, and financial services, and then also for a startup for a few years. That was one of the most challenging times in terms of businesses, but all of my experience brought me here back to helping students in the college admissions process exactly where I'd like to be. And so I'm excited to be here and look forward to speaking with you.
Hi everybody, I'm Nicole Salambini. I have a really long title because I do many things at Pace University. I am the Director of Admissions on our Westchester campus, just down the road. I'm also the University Director of Transfer Enrollment and the Visitor Experience. I went to Pace University thinking it was going to be a year transition, and I've been there for 21 years. So I can pretty much talk about anything related to Pace, as well as college admissions. So it's my pleasure to join this great panel tonight, answer any questions you might have, and get you excited about the college admission process. Can I ask them a question just to start it off? Sure. Just to get an idea of who's in this room right now. Who's the high school senior? Okay. And have any of the parents in the room been through this process before? A couple of you. So a lot of you, this is a first time process. Okay, that's great. We just kind of like to know who we're talking about so we can tailor what we're saying and not use jargon and acronyms, which is what we do a lot. So thank you for that.
All right, great. So let's begin the discussion. Let's start with, how do you choose the right college for you?
That's like a huge question. Okay, so you have to do your research. There's so many ways to do research now about the colleges. And there's always a college for everybody in this country. There's over 3,000 colleges, so there's a fit for everybody. Do you want a large school, small school, urban, suburban? I know that sounds very cliche, but it's actually very true. You can use websites to find out about the colleges, meet with college reps when they come to your school, like I'm sure you have been here already, maybe, and maybe you're coming back, I don't know. But that's a great way to get FaceTime with a college rep and ask lots of questions. But really do your research, kind of think about, where you're coming from and where you want to go. And again, I run a visitor experience program, so I like to plug college visits, right? So it's really important to try to get your foot on a college campus because you really won't know if you like it there if you don't walk around, get the feel for the environment, meet the students, ask lots of questions, talk to the faculty and ask them about their actual programs. So Pace might have a psychology program, I'm sure we do, right? You probably have a psychology program. I know Manhattanville probably has a psychology program. They might be different, so it's best to ask a lot of questions and do your research ahead of time.
All right. So what are the differences between early decision, early action, regular admissions, and rolling admissions?
I'll take that one. So early decision is binding. It's a commitment. You're signing a contract. It is also, if you absolutely know that that's the university that you would like to attend, because you have to withdraw all of your other applications from the other colleges that you've gotten accepted to once you have been accepted to the college that you are making your early decision with. Some schools require an interview like we do, and so it is more of a binding commitment in terms of applying to early decision as opposed to early action, which is non-binding. It's more flexible. You're still able to apply to other universities, and you're still able to get in early while scholarships are available still, as well as room in the programs that you're interested in before they fill up, because if it's too late, that could become problematic for the program that you're looking to study in. Regular admissions is part of the process where, for us, we are taking rolling admissions based on when the applications come in. You still can deposit until May 1st, as opposed to early decision, which usually has an earlier deposit deadline date. Those are the distinct differences between those different options on the application. I usually recommend early action for most students because it's more flexible and you're able to get into the program still early on the process. Again, if you apply too late, there are some issues that could arise from that. But those are the major differences. I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for that type of question is keeping track of dates for different colleges, right? So some may have a regular admission decision that's slightly different than another, or they have a priority scholarship deadline that you want to be aware of so that you can be considered for all scholarships. Those are also really important. Don't just worry about the titles of these and the names of early action, rolling admissions. I would keep track of some of the dates. Maybe you have 5 top schools that you want to apply to. You want to know when their early action date is, when their regular date is, and if they have like a final date to be considered for all of the scholarships. And the other point that Phil made is some programs have very specific dates. So for us, nursing has a very specific date that we want to make sure you get your applications in because our nursing program fills up. Probably a lot of nursing programs are like that. So if you know that you have a very specific program, make sure that you don't miss any dates. Fine and performing arts students, those are really important for you to be keeping track of those dates. Our dates are slightly different than PACE's dates, right, for those programs. So being mindful of dates, I think, is more important than just the titles of those deadlines.
I think it's also really important to think about, when you think about early decision or early action, both of those options, you're telling the university or college that you're applying to that you're their first choice, or at least for early action, like you're one of your top choices, right? If you're applying early decision, you know that if you're admitted, you want to go there. And really the only way to kind of get out of that binding contract is maybe your financial aid package doesn't reach where you needed it to be. But for some schools, when the programs are really competitive, there are some advantages to applying to early decision because maybe it is an option for that school where you might have a better chance of getting in and the reality of the situation. There actually also may come with perks. So if you apply early decision, like at PACE, not to plug PACE, but here's an example, you might have the option to have priority housing, or there might be an additional scholarship. So when you're looking at different schools, it is definitely about deadlines, because if you miss the deadline, you won't actually get that opportunity. But you should check and see if it's somewhere you really, really know you want to be, because you've visited campus and you've done your research and you're like, this is what I want to be part of this group. Look and see if there's some benefits to applying early decision that you may not have known about.
And good point about the scholarships, because that definitely makes a difference. If you do apply early decision or early action, 1 or 2 at the University of New Haven, there's a step up in the minimum scholarship from $10,000 to $15,000. So that's an example, I think, of what we're referring to in terms of the differences in scholarships for certain colleges.
Thank you. All right, Nicole, you talked a little bit earlier about the campus visit. So in general, how important is the campus visit for students to attend? And should students attend an open house as well?
1,000% on all of those points. Sorry. 1,000%. Absolutely. If, visiting campuses can get costly. We all know that. And you may not be looking at schools that are in this area. You may have to travel to get there. So it's really important to try to budget that out, but it's really important to go visit campuses, either before you apply or after you are admitted, to really get a feel for the student body. If you look at websites, you can see, they start to look alike after a while, but really when you step foot on the campus, you're gonna get the feeling of what the student body is like, what clubs and organizations they have. You just kind of get the feel of, do you fit in? What's the vibe, right? So visiting campus in general, I highly recommend doing a campus tour. Most campuses have them almost every day, a couple times a day, and they're student-led, right? So you go and you sit and you listen at an information session by someone probably like one of us, general information about the school, and then the beauty of the campus tour is that you're led around campus by a student ambassador. The student tour guides are what sell the school. They're going to tell you the ins and outs, they're going to tell you if the food's good, they're going to tell you if the food is terrible, they're going to tell you, what it's like to be a student there. So highly recommend taking a campus tour. I also recommend going to an open house because you're going to get a completely different experience than a campus tour. Some people thrive on just the small experience. Some people, want to go to the open houses where you're going to meet faculty and you can still take a tour, but there's going to be more programming and learning about majors, and you might meet deans, and so they're just different levels and sizes of events. But whatever you can do, large, small, or both, I highly recommend doing something because you're not going to get the feel of the college by not actually going there and feeling it out. I'll tell you a story. I went to college many moons ago, and I was at an admitted student event. I had been, accepted to a bunch of schools, and we were at the admitted student event. It was in Washington, D.C., where I really thought I wanted to be. And I got to the admitted student event, and I was in a gym with, I don't even know how many thousands of people. And I went to high school in Bronxville. And most of you probably know that is a very small school. And at the time, it was even smaller. And I looked around and I was like, I gotta get out of here. And my mom didn't know what to do. Again, this was a long time ago where no one had cell phones, right? So she had a calling card. And she said, what are we gonna do? I said, I don't know, I gotta get out of here because I don't fit here. It's too overwhelming, And so I used her calling card and I used a payphone. That's what we did in 1993. And she said, find out how you get to Gettysburg. And so I called Gettysburg, and it was an hour and a half's drive from Washington, and we drove up there, and it was raining like you've never seen, like maybe the way it was a couple weeks ago. And I fell in love with the school. It was raining, it was pouring, the kids were so nice, the people that welcomed me were nice, and I ended up going there and had the most amazing experience of 4 years. And ended up going back to Washington for a semester. So you just kind of never know. I mean, this is a personal story again, a long time ago, but the idea still remains. Go see schools, go feel, word of mouth too. Like if you have friends that are already at colleges, go visit them, get a feel for what it's like and ask a ton of questions. Maybe take the tour without your parents because they might ask questions and embarrass you. Or maybe you don't know what to ask and they ask lots of questions, which is great, but the moral of the story is go visit schools.
Great point. I think making a decision to attend a university without visiting is a risky decision and a risky proposition, right? Because you don't know what it's actually like to be on campus until you actually get there. So, and I think that, taking advantage of an open house, where you can hear from faculty, you can hear about the different types of internships for your particular program or research opportunities, also clubs and organizations, support services, things that are important to you that are on your list. You want to check them off and just make sure that that college has what you're looking for, just in terms of all the different programs and support services, because I think that's really, really important. Whether it's a large school with 30,000 or 40,000, and you can see yourself sitting in a large classroom or a large auditorium, and then, or versus being in a smaller classroom. Where do you thrive, and what type of environment would that be? Also, as you're walking around some of the campuses, one of the tips that I always tell students is, there's school newspapers when classes are in session. Take a newspaper, that gives you a lot of insight into what's going on, what's happening on campus. So take advantage of it, ask as many questions as you'd like to the students, because they're the ones who are living it, and they're on campus every day, and they'll give you honest answers to your questions. So just a few tips that I wanted to share with you.
Thank you. That was great. So speaking of that, you mentioned questions. What are some questions to ask on a tour, or to student ambassadors, or to the admissions counselor?
Yeah. So yeah, we're like, ask all your questions, right? And you're like, okay, so what questions should we be asking? So like Nicole mentioned, you'll probably hear from an admissions counselor or someone of an admissions professional. And I would say hold off on your questions for them until you go on tour with your student ambassador, because the likelihood is that you'll get a lot of your questions answered. What are the faculty like? What's your relationship with your faculty and your major? How easy is it for you to get in touch with them? And how accessible are they, right, to you? The other thing that I think is important to ask is, what do you do in the evening, on the weekend? How did you find your friend group? Because all of that, just like when you were here in high school, how did you get involved? What did you get involved with, and why did you do that? Those are all important pieces. And if you live on campus or you're commuting, how are you going to make that new community? Because now you're leaving something that you've had and are comfortable with for, probably 4 years. So those are really important questions. For the counselors, I would be sure that you're asking them, what deadlines, like we talked about before, should we be following? What are some ways, if you're really interested in the school that you're visiting, what are some ways to make my application stand out? And just going to the visit is going to make you stand out, right? If you have questions about financial aid or about your scholarship or potential scholarships, those are all questions for the counselor or the admissions professional. Most likely your student ambassador is not going to know about those. That's kind of the business side of things. If you are planning on going on a non-open house day where there are less scheduled activities, do you want to make sure that you talk to financial aid? Do you want to make sure that you try to see a professor or sit in on a class? Ask that prior to arriving to campus, right? We want to, I'm sure all of us in those schools that you're going to go to want to make sure that the visit is what you want to have. We never want just to have you come in and wish you could have seen more or had something else. But if you come and you don't give us a chance to coordinate that, the likelihood is we're not going to be able to accommodate it to the best that we could have. I'm sure you have a lot more questions that you want to offer up.
All right.
I mean, I do.
Oh,
You should ask, how's the food? I'm not kidding though.
Some
That's an
schools will
important
let
one.
you, like, you can go to the dining hall. Some schools will provide that option too.
For those watching online, some schools will provide that as an option for you, or you can go on your own. Most dining halls are open to campus visitors, not just to the students and faculty and staff. So if it's not something that's offered on the tour, if you want to go and try it out, they'll let you try it out. You just pay it like you would for a regular lunch. So that's a really cool piece too.
Thank you. So you mentioned that, showing up and attending and visiting a school is a way to show interest. If there's a college that a student is really, really interested in, how do they show that to the college? What can they do to stand out?
So I think it's important when, for example, colleges come to your high schools to visit, to meet with the college reps if you can while they're at your high school. In addition, we're on the road, so at your college fairs, that's also helpful. We do track interest, so the number of events that you attend and the interactions that you have at different universities. Certain universities do track that, and that's also helpful for you, and it's helpful for the college admissions rep because they get to know a little bit more about who you are as a person, and when it's time to review your applications, we have an idea of who you are, and that's very, very helpful, in the process. So, and if you go to, like we said, an information session and campus tour, an open house, other events that may be available, interacting with your school counselor as well and getting as much information as you can about the university or college that you're interested in is always helpful. So taking advantage of all the resources like you're doing tonight is really, really helpful and shows interest to the colleges that you're looking to apply to.
I'm just gonna add, do something simple, like shoot them an email. We love that. We do so much, and we put so much effort in trying to find you. If you've found us, oh my goodness, tell us, reach out. Our contact information is everywhere you could possibly need it, right on the website. And most schools, I would say, probably have counselors organized by different territories. So just shoot us an email and tell us why you're interested in PACE, and that positive email is going to go right into your record and attached to your application when you send it in, and it'll just make our lives a little bit easier, and we'll know we can keep the dialogue going.
Great. So here you are, you have a stack of applications in front of you, and what are you really looking for in that application, and how can that student make their application stand out beyond what you just described where you have that email? What are some other things if they haven't met you yet and you're looking at their application?
Sure. So I do really think it depends on where you're applying, and I think that's a very important piece. So you want your application, your personal essay. Every school is going to ask you for a personal statement, right? So what do you want us to know about you? For my athletes in the room, I want to know more about just your great baseball, game or something like that. I want to know about why you like to play baseball, what influenced you to play baseball. My theater people in the room, I don't want to just know that you had a great, you were the principal in one of the shows, but why are you passionate about theater or something like that? We love to know about your amazing accomplishments, but we want to get to know you when we're thinking about a personal statement. Some schools will have additional questions. You'll please be sure that you complete those to the best of your ability, because if they're asking those for a reason, and that will also help you stand out, and they want you to answer them, right? There are different prompts if you're looking at the Common App or on their website. The other thing that I'm looking for, I am truthfully looking at your GPA. I have to be very honest about that, right? I'm looking at what classes you've taken. Have you pushed yourself? Are you taking honors classes, or have you tried to take honors classes? Or if that is not where you are academically, what type of electives have you tried to take? So I'm looking at your entire transcript. I'm not just looking at your GPA. But it would be it would be unfair for me to say I'm overlooking your GPA completely, because there is a GPA requirement to get into Manhattanville, as there is for every school that you're going to be applying to that has an application attached to it. If you are applying to special programs that have GPA minimums, you need to meet that minimum to be at least reviewed and considered for that program. Those are very important. If you have additional pieces, like you're a musical theater, or there are portfolio requirements, like those are all very important. And if you don't even submit them, you won't even be considered to be reviewed. I feel like this is a heavy question, and I don't mean for it to be heavy, but we want to be honest, right? I am looking at your entire application, your reference and letters. Again, pick someone that knows you, not just knows one part of you. If that means you have to do multiple reference letters, then we read everything. There's a reason why it takes a little bit of time to get your decisions out, because we're reading everything that you submit as part of your application, because we want to get to know you. Just like we want you to send an email because we want to get to know you, that's the same piece for your application. I think that everyone has a lot more to say to that, so I'll pass it on.
Well, yeah, I think that it's important in your essay or your personal statement to indicate, what type of value could you bring to the campus community? What are some of your goals and objectives in terms of, what you would like to achieve, not only in college, but maybe in the future. So those are some additional things that will give us some insight into, what you're looking forward to achieving. And we want to help you get there and help you become successful. So bridging that gap is something that we're interested in doing, so that we have an idea of a little bit more insight into what you're looking to do in college. I also think it's important, at the University of New Haven, you're applying to the specific academic program or major. So, for example, forensic science is our top program. And, we look for students to have good grades in math and science, so B or better in those particular subjects, as well with engineering and some of our health sciences programs like dental hygiene, which is a smaller program and fills up rather quickly. And there's not a whole lot of dental hygiene programs in this region. So, those are some of the things that we look for is, we look a little bit further into the courses that you're taking in high school and how well you're doing in them. And at the end of the day, we're making a decision based off of the holistic review of the application, and not just only academics, but anything else that you're a part of, whether there's any activities or programs or outside of the classroom that you're part of. That's also helpful for us as well.
From a different standpoint, I think it's also important to think about what you're good at, right? So if you are a good test taker and you took the SATs and ACTs, don't be afraid to submit the scores. So, there's a lot of conversations that are had, and I know, one of the questions that is going to be asked about test optional, but there are schools still that, accept test scores. So I think if your test scores are good and you think they reflect you, don't be afraid to submit them. And I would say, yes, we're looking at your grades, we're also reading your essays, and it's really important to make those essays reflect you and also make sure they're proofread. So I think, we're trying to sound deep and really get to know you and all of these things, but really one of the main purposes of the essay is to make sure that we can sort of see that you can, write, and that's just such a key piece of college. And regardless of the majors that you go in, you need to be able to communicate. And I think that's really one of the main reasons for the essay, is really to get us to think about how you think and how you communicate. So when you're sitting down to do your application, think about, all those pieces, and some of you may submit, some of you may not even take SATs or ACTs, some of you take them and you're not sure. Make sure you check each school's requirements. They're pretty forthcoming about ranges and things like that, so it's something to consider, and you might not want to submit them, but I think it's a good opportunity to at least take the test and see where you sort of fall.
Fantastic. That was very comprehensive. You mentioned about test optional and SAT scores. Is your college or university test optional? And if a student does not submit their SAT or ACT scores, how is that application viewed?
So Pace University is test optional. We made the decision, ironically, right before COVID to go test optional, which turned out to be a solid decision for Pace, considering we ran into a global pandemic and students couldn't get a test. But the reason we chose to do that is just for more equity purposes and just to give students more of a holistic review in our applications. There are certain majors at Pace that do have minimums of SATs and ACTs if students do submit them. So I think based on, I think Christina said it, or one of you said it, about different majors having different requirements. It's so important to know what those are. There's actually also minimums of SATs and ACTs for things like honors colleges at schools. At Pace University, if you submit your SATs and ACTs, there is a minimum to be considered for honors, which is the difference of scholarships and other opportunities and such. So make sure you look at these different things at different schools. At Pace, if you choose to be test optional, or to submit your application without test scores, that's perfectly okay. We review every application with the same level of review. It's the same with common application or using, the PACE application. It all means the same to us. We don't look at it any differently in terms of its value. But we are going to look at your application slightly differently because we'll have less pieces to go on when we do the review. So we are looking very closely at the classes you've taken, the grades you've gotten in those classes, any trends you might have, your region scores. All of these pieces are going to be looked at slightly differently just because there's less pieces to look at. And I think that's just an important thing to know. But there's no difference in value if you do not submit test scores. What else can I say about that? That's pretty much it.
So at the University of New Haven, we're also test optional for all majors and programs. We also have a no harm policy. It could only help you if you do submit your scores. If you submit them, it can't harm you in any way. That's our policy. So it can't hurt you to submit your scores at New Haven. Also, I would say that if you do well on the SATs or ACTs, it could help you. With scholarship and things like that. So, some things to consider when looking at different schools. They may view, SAT and ACT scores a little bit differently in terms of their policy. So make sure you check and ask the reps or, check online for that information to make sure you know going in whether or not you should submit your scores to different colleges.
So at Manhattanville, we are test optional as well. We have a no harm policy, but we do not use the test scores at all to consider your scholarship opportunities. If you do submit them, it can only help you, it can't hurt you, but because we don't have very many students, especially since the pandemic, submitting test scores, we've actually removed it as part of our evaluation for scholarships as well. For our student body, it's been helpful. We used to have specific programs that needed SAT or ACT scores, and instead we have put like Phil said, specific types of classes need to have a certain GPA or a certain grade as opposed to the SAT or ACT score. So very important. And this is where asking your admissions counselor at schools that you're interested in that very specific question. That's an easy email just to ask them, you know, I see your test optional. What do you use it for, if you use it at all? And that's an important piece. And if they are requiring it to apply, you need to send those in. Some schools are going back to requiring them, or like Nicole said, requiring them for certain programs.
So are there different admissions requirements for different majors or different departments within each school?
I think we've covered a lot of that for Manhattanville, specifically nursing, radiologic technology, for any of our fine and performing arts majors, there's additional portfolio requirements. So if you're looking, just go to the website, truthfully, or again, ask your admissions counselor. I think you have a number of programs. I know PACE has a number of programs. I don't think it can ship past it, but if you know, you need to just ask your counselor.
Perfect. So, did anybody else want to add anything to that?
No.
Okay, good. What are some pitfalls students should be aware of when they're applying? Any things that you see?
I mean, I don't know if this is a pitfall, but it's definitely a don't do. So we talked about the essay a little bit. I actually have read many essays that tell me why they want to go to a different college.
Oh, that's not a good idea.
It doesn't show that, well, A, you're excited about our school.
Or that you're proofreading.
Right, and that's actually why I said it before, because it was the idea that came to my head. And so, you know, make sure you proofread, make sure someone else proofreads, make sure a third person proofreads, whatever it is, but just remember that that essay is a reflection of you, and it's not a great idea to send the wrong school that essay. So that's a pitfall, I think,
That's a
right?
big one. Yeah, that's a big
It
one.
actually happens more than you would even
Yeah.
think.
Don't do that. I will say,
I would also really, we're going to talk about a little bit about financial aid. As you are applying to schools, don't be worried immediately about cost. Most schools, and especially us three up here, we want to make our education affordable to you. We will work with you. There's many ways to try to make it affordable. So as you're looking at schools, don't worry so much in the beginning. Wait until you get your financial aid package, your scholarship package. Also, do not let the application fee be a deterrent. Again, reach out to your admissions counselor. If you are really interested and say, I'm really interested, do you have an application fee waiver? Those I think are, they're not pitfalls. I just don't want any barriers in the beginning for you, right? Don't let those pieces stop you if you love a school or your top 3 schools. It doesn't necessarily mean that we'll all be able to get you where you need to be or where you want to be, but don't let it happen right now in October. We will work with you the best that we can, and we'll talk about financial aid.
Do you want to talk a little bit about scholarships versus financial aid right now, and how do students qualify for scholarships at the different schools or outside scholarships affiliated?
Sure.
Right.
Yep. So when you apply to the University of New Haven, for example, you're applying to the merit scholarship, and there's going to be a certain range, that we have that's available for all students. So we're a private university, so that range is $10,000 to $30,000, for example. Then you also have scholarships like the honors program that you could apply to. That's an additional $1,000 scholarship if you get accepted into the honors program. Thirdly, there's a portfolio scholarship that I think was mentioned earlier. For us, it's for art design students and music students that have an opportunity to submit a portfolio scholarship, another $1,000 to $4,000. So my point is that, and then there's additional scholarships in your financial aid packages that you can receive as well when you submit your FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, which is something that I think all students and families should submit, even if you think that you're not going to receive any financial aid because you think you may not qualify. Sometimes students and families are surprised to see that they do qualify for some level of financial aid. So we strongly recommend that all students and families submit the FAFSA because you just never know what you may qualify for. And that's going to have additional federal loans, grants, and additional scholarships in your financial aid package based off of need. Based off of the family income that you submit, you're going to qualify differently based off of your specific individual family circumstances. So everyone's going to have a little bit different financial aid package. And this year, it's been a little bit different, being that it's been delayed, the FAFSA, just in terms of when students and families can apply because they've made some changes, and it's going to be a little bit later in the process this year. So we're looking probably, what I'm hearing is sometime in December, and that may run into January, right? So usually it's a little bit later than the expected date, but those are some things to look for. I don't know if you have any.
Just a couple of things. So when you're looking at different schools, everybody's going to be a little bit different, right? So there's different, financial aid would be based on need. Scholarship, merit-based scholarship is usually based on academics or some other type of, many factors that go into that depending on the school. A grant is money that they're going to give you and you don't have to pay it back, different from a loan. And then there's also what we have is called endowed scholarships. These are some of my favorites. People leave money to schools all the time, and that money is available to you. So it's really an extra way, or a way to get extra money, and you just have to do a little bit of work to get to it. But so it might be, the Salambini Fund at Pace University for psychology majors with a 3.0. Well, maybe if you're a psychology major with a 3.0, you could apply and get that extra money. Things like that. There are many of them. I suggest students look into those. There are actually even some endowed scholarships I know at Pace for first-year students. So it's not necessarily only for when you're a sophomore, junior, or senior. There are some for incoming students as well. So just do a little bit of research. And my other favorite is outside scholarships. So Dad's Bowling League, your church, local synagogue. There are scholarships all over your town, all over the county, all over the place. And it's untapped money. I can guarantee you many of these scholarships do not even get applied to. And so bring in as much money as you can possibly bring in. It doesn't have any effect on your merit scholarship or your financial aid package. At least at Pace, it just adds it right on there. We've had students bring in millions of dollars worth of money just into the university from outside scholarships. So you'd be surprised how much they can get, and it's not as hard as you might think it is.
So we've talked about the difference between the merit scholarship and your needs scholarships. I am going to say this because you're all New York State students. When you apply to the free application for federal student aid, not if, when, you're also going to be given an option to apply to TAP, New York State TAP, Tuition Assistant Program. Make sure you click that on your FAFSA. If you go to a school that is in the state of New York, because you're New York State students, you potentially qualify for additional state money. And so that's really important. if you miss it on the FAFSA, that is okay. You can go into the Higher Education New York State website. It's just not as easy. It's a longer, more arduous application than the FAFSA. So please make sure that you do that if you are applying to any New York State colleges or universities, so that you can have that as part of the review for your financial aid package, which again is the need-based part. So sorry if you go to University of New Haven, you don't qualify for that, but again, I think that that is important, and I'm sure that they're keeping that into consideration when they're looking at New York State students.
I know we mentioned the FAFSA a bunch of times, and that was really helpful. We're thinking it's going to open in December, but we're not sure when yet. I know the dates haven't come out yet. Hopefully it will be in December and doesn't get pushed out into January. Do you have any information on that you can add?
So the latest update is that it's going to be mid-December. I think if you've been paying attention to the government and where we are with our budget for the federal government, we're anticipating an additional shutdown sometime in November. That will impact what work can be completed on the FAFSA on the government side. The nice piece for all of you is that we do anticipate it will be open no later than the beginning of the new year. It will be a shorter application. I know many of you said you're new to this process. It's going to be a shorter application. It's going to be easier for you all to complete it, less questions. They're working on putting together how to model, right? How to make sure that they're giving the most need to those that need it and that sort of thing. So please know that they're, I think, taking the time that they need to make sure that this is the best update for the users, which is all of you. I gave the government a lot of credit there, so.
Great. I think one last question would be about NCAA. And what are the differences between Division I and II and III in terms of admissions and financial aid scholarships?
This is Phil and I's favorite topic.
Yeah, I happen to play college basketball, so I had a scholarship in college. But you know, there are for Division I, NCAA full rides for certain athletic programs. Now, it's not easy to get a scholarship to college, but if you are being actively recruited, and now I know these days it helps to you know, play in high school, you know, play on the club teams as much as you can, so that you know, and have, you know, a lot of times you know, the AAU teams and just depending on the sport, being an active member on the team and having a profile sometimes with a consultant or a third-party organization could be helpful because you know, sometimes that's how you can get recognized to become recruited athlete. So Division I has a higher amount of a larger number of scholarships that are available for students because they have more money. And that's what it comes down to, as opposed to Division II colleges, which may not offer as many full rides. So at the University of New Haven, the average scholarship overall is about $6,000 for athletes. So it's up to the coach's discretion to you know, give those scholarships, and that's about what the average is at the Division II level for all universities. And then Division III, there's even less opportunities for athletic scholarships and more be tied to financial aid. So you know, in the financial aid packages. So those are the major differences in terms of the athletic scholarships, in terms of how it works.
I play Division III basketball, and so I think it's important as you're thinking about if you are planning and wanting to play, If you're not being recruited right now to a Division I or Division II school, that's okay. You should be reaching out to Division III schools and seeing if they are interested in you. Send in, they all have little info boxes on the athletic website. Or you can talk to your counselor and they can get you connected. The difference also in terms of scholarship is that those scholarships that Phil was talking about for Division I and Division II, if you stop playing, those scholarships are no longer a part of your package. If you stop playing at Division III, it does not impact your scholarships. I stopped playing my junior year. I decided I wanted to go abroad. Basketball goes through both semesters, so that wasn't an opportunity if I continued to play. So those are important pieces, right? And if you're a senior right now and you haven't started to hear from those Division II, Division I schools, and you want to play, reach out to Division III. Club is a great option too. So if you want to continue to play but not on an organized team, that's a great option. But just being aware that if you are going Division I or II and you're getting an athletic scholarship, if you decide not to play, you will most likely lose whatever that athletic piece is. And I think that's an important part.
No, great point. And I think also just in terms of time commitment and just, in terms of practices at the Division I, Division II level, it's very time consuming. So you are going, to put a lot of time into, playing on the team, making a contribution with practices, with travel. You may have, study hall sessions that you have to attend to. So as opposed to club, where it's, if you miss a practice, it's not a big deal. It's okay. And so, those are the major differences. You're still competitive at the club level, competing against other colleges for championships and things like that. However, it's, as Christine was saying, just not as much as a commitment as, being at the NCAA Division I or Division II level.
Terrific. All right, I think at this time, I'd like to open it up for you guys, parents, students, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask the panel. Anybody have any questions?
First question, go ahead.
When you apply for early action, does everything get submitted, like your application, your essay, everything at the same time?
The question was, if you apply early action or one of the early applications, to be reviewed, you need to have everything submitted. Whatever the requirement is at that college, you need to have it all submitted to be reviewed as part of that decision timeline. Before the deadline, yes, before the deadline.
And then I have another question about the FAFSA. So does that mean like we can't start filling out the form until it opens in December? We can't do it then?
For FAFSA, you mean?
Yes.
It actually doesn't exist.
It doesn't, yeah, there's nothing for you to fill out right now, so you can't even start your profile. I did just ask our Director of Financial Aid that because there was hope that you could start to fill it out, but they don't have that open yet. So most likely not until it's fully open. Yeah.
The one thing that you can do, just to give you somewhat of an estimate, is every school is required to have a net price calculator. So if you go on any college website right now, put in net price calculator, and it'll ask you a series of questions, fill out the questions, and it'll give you kind of a general estimate of what your financial aid package could possibly look like. It's going to be based on old FAFSA, but I think it's your best bet to try to at least get a general sense of what your package could possibly look like. Some schools also have a merit estimator. I know we do at PACE, so one would be, financial aid, and the other would be more of a scholarship base. Yeah. Question?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but she's my second daughter going for the college now. I didn't finish FAFSA. I don't know. I just log in and take on everything, and then the daughter said it's in December. So I'm confused now, but it's possible.
Yeah.
The question was, so this is his second student to go through. He has a FAFSA ID. You already created all of that. You can still log in, but you can't fill out the new FAFSA because it doesn't exist yet. If this is your second student and you already have filed the FAFSA and created a user ID in the FAFSA system, you will use that same user ID and password to get into the system. But currently, if you log in right now, there's nothing for you to fill out. If you are a new parent, this is your first student going through, I don't believe you can create anything yet. They've turned off the ability to create. So you'll use the same username password.
Perhaps what happened is that maybe I fixed it this year or something. I submitted my FAFSA. I don't know how it went.
Say that again?
I did submit my FAFSA. I did submit it, but maybe it went for this year instead of next year. Maybe I selected it.
Oh, you might have submitted it for this current year because the one for next year hasn't opened.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
My daughter's applying for Stony Brook, and I know you don't represent it, but just want to ask a general question, following up on the same question, right? The date is October, I think next weekend, next Sunday is the last day for, sorry, last day for the early action.
Most likely early decision.
No,
So-
early action.
Early action? Okay.
October 15th,
Yes.
Yeah.
Next Sunday.
October 15th.
Yeah, thank you. Early action, right? But she's taken the SAT.
SAT?
Whatever I think she's going to get on, I think it will go only by 30th or so, even to the school, right? Is it acceptable? You guys know anything
I'm going to advise you to contact the Stony Brook admissions office or her counselor and ask those very specific questions. I wouldn't want to make any determinations on their process.
Yeah, it looks like it's specific to the school because we did ask my daughter, email her, and they said it's fine, you can send it to October 30th because you were talking earlier that probably have something everything together. I just want to say that it would be an exception, possible, if you can talk to the administration office. That's what we did.
You should talk to them directly.
Yeah, we did that and they said it's okay.
Then if they said it's okay, then I would go off of what they're saying to you.
Yeah.
I had a question. I had a question about early decision. You said that, it's a binding agreement, but that because the financial aid thing is not set up yet, that is a reason why you would be able to not be bound to the decision. Is that correct?
Yeah, so when you apply early decision, the student actually has to sign a contract, and so does the school counselor, to say that they know that the student is applying early decision, so that everybody's on the same page. But there is a loophole if a student, gets their financial aid package and you still can't make it work, that would be a way to, back out of early decision. We don't really want that, but obviously it's for the benefit of the student. But there is literally like a written contract that you have to sign, and so does the school counselor. And if you do not submit it, and they don't sign it, you're not considered ED. Yeah, did you have another question? Or a question?
Yeah. So, you didn't discuss 529 plans. I mean, how does that affect a student's financial aid and their personal savings?
We're not the financial aid.
Well, I will tell you, we are having a financial aid night on November 9th. And Dan Robinson, actually from PACE, is going to be coming. He's the Director of Financial Aid. And he will absolutely be able, I'm sure, to answer that question.
But this is an admissions roundtable, and this is a general question. We were talking about scholarships and everything like that. How does the 529 plan, students' 529 plan, affect their scholarship as a financial?
It does not.
So one has nothing to do with the other. The 529 plan is basically to pay the bill. It has no effect on merit scholarship. Merit scholarships are going to be based on the student's application for admission. So I can tell you at PACE, as a student is admitted to PACE University, you actually get your scholarship in your acceptance letter. Your financial aid package will be based on the submission of FAFSA. If you don't ever submit FAFSA, that's perfectly okay. We suggest you do, but if you do not, you wouldn't get a financial aid package. But if you do, you'll get your package, which will consist of usually loans, grants, TAP, but your 529 doesn't have any bearing on those two numbers.
And I just want to follow up on the FAFSA. I know this is delay. Is that going to impact the admissions in this, once it's open to people filling it out? You have a shorter window. Is that going to affect people?
It's a really good question. So I can tell you that we're already reviewing applications at PACE. I don't know if you guys are yet, but the applications are already starting to come in, and our goal is to get those rolling out for us. I can't speak for them, but around Thanksgiving. So, there will be a little bit of a delay for a financial aid package, but we are offering our merit scholarships right at the upfront. So, hopefully by, February, when packages can be released, then families can have the opportunity to really make some hard decisions.
So I'm going to give you a little secret. It's only been the past 8 years that the FAFSA has been open early in October. When I went through, it used to be March, actually. And they used to require you to use your current year's tax returns. So, in that sense, A, you're not behind. People used to have to make these decisions literally within 2 weeks. B, they've made it shorter, easier. That's why they're doing this. This is the first time that they have overhauled, reviewed the FAFSA, and I think it's like since the 70s, to be very honest. Like true overhaul. So there's that. I think it's going to, we feel it too. We want to get your packages out to you. We want you to have the most amount of time to be able to review your package. I will also say this. You may be able to submit in mid-December. That doesn't mean you're going to get your package from schools before the new year or within 2 weeks, because we also, and you'll hear this from if you go to the financial aid night, have to make sure that we are following any new regulations that they've put on colleges, or any new pieces that we need to be considering. We're doing that as we get information from the government, but again, if they don't have it complete, we can't complete everything that we need to do. So again, everyone's just kind of in this place where we can't do anything until the government finishes what they need to do also. You guys can't do what you need to do, and we can't do what we need to do. I am under the impression, based on the different workshops and updates and things that they've sent out, that this is supposed to be very advantageous for students that are planning to go to college.
You should definitely come here.
Come to the financial
Dan
aid night,
Robinson.
yes. I don't know who
7:30
else you
p.m.
have.
Thursday, yep.
Thursday,
November 9th.
7:30 p.m.
Thursday,
Definitely.
November 9th. Back here at the high school in the auditorium.
That would be a great one for you to come to.
So PACE University is merit-based in our scholarships, and we are need blind in our application review. So when we read there's a lot, in the beginning I said we weren't gonna talk in jargon, because there's so many things. So when we review an application, we're not looking at a family's income or need in order to make that academic admission decision. Some schools do, so another thing you want to look at when you're looking at schools, are you need blind or need aware?
What about the neighbor
both knee blind as well.
During
So-
the application process.
Yeah, so the students right away, as soon as they apply and they get their decision back from the University of New Haven, they will qualify for a level of scholarship on the merit side, and they'll be notified in their acceptance package what level they qualified for, so they'll know right away.
We're the same. So when if you're accepted to Manhattanville, you'll also get your scholarship letter as part of your acceptance packet. That does not in any way review your need-based. That will only happen when you file your FAFSA at Manhattanville. And that, I'm assuming, is really how they would do it at the other schools. You have to file your FAFSA. Yep, for need-based aid.
Any other questions? We have time, one more?
So does need blind mean it's solely academic?
Correct.
And so it doesn't matter if you're applying for finances, you're strictly looking at just if the student can even get through the admissions process?
So the question is, when we are reviewing an application, if we are considering need blind admissions, are we only looking at academics to give scholarship? That is correct. We will, to award scholarship, we are not looking at any of your finances. On the merit, when you apply for admission to either of our schools, we are not taking into account any financial need to award you your scholarship, merit scholarship. Okay.
I just never heard of need blind used before, so.
Yeah, you're gonna hear need blind, you're gonna hear need aware, it'd be the
Okay.
opposite.
I just never heard either from.
That's why it's so important to come to these things.
At least for us three, and that's why it's important to talk to your counselors.
For our 3 schools, that's how we review for merit scholarships. If you have that question, I would ask your specific, at a different school, ask your admissions counselor. And you can go back and watch the recording.
Okay. All right, I think at this time, I want to leave enough time for people if they want to see you informally at the end. And I want to just thank everybody for being here and hope that this evening helped to give you a clearer perspective on the path ahead. I want to give a special thank you to our panel here, Christina, Philip, and Nicole. Your insights have truly helped to understand the opportunities for our students as they go ahead. And I just want to remind everyone to please continue to seek out the resources and supports that can help you in this process. Contacting the schools, contacting the reps, your school counseling department, your child's school counselor. We're all here to assist you every step of the way for your success, so do not hesitate to reach out. And once again, thank you for being here, and we hope that you will come for November 9th to Financial Aid Night. I think it's going to be a great night. And Dan's going to be here. He was here last year as well, and he has a lot to say about the new FAFSA, I know that. So we hope to see you then. So safe travels, and thank you for coming, and have a great night. Let's give a round of applause to Phil, and to Christina, and to Nicole. Thank you guys.